Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you. Boy, it was a busy day today, and so I thought I would kind of whip together a video, a little quickly thrown together, but got some good stuff to talk about today. Very newsy day, let's call it. You can even see by the title here, we had a lot going on with Bitcoin. We had Coinbase, the AMC earnings. Boy, a lot happening today. So I'm just going to dive right in. Probably be a little quicker video if you've been around my channel a while. A little more off the cuff, let's say, some gut responses to the day, although everything that happened today really matched some of the thesis and some things I've been sharing. So that was wild to watch. So at least I'm prepared in that regard to talk about it. So I'll jump in on that. But if you're just maybe not seeing as many kind of prepared thoughts, that's all that's going to be about. Just trying to get back to you quickly because a lot was going on. It was a big day. All right, so Coinbase goes down. By now you probably noticed that that was pretty big news all over Twitter at least. Happened to me. I had a little bit of Bitcoin in Coinbase and noticed it glitching one time when I had gotten home from giving my mom a ride. Long story about ankle surgery she had, but don't worry, she's well. Anyway, gave her a ride, got home, looked at my Coinbase because it was like, whoa, Bitcoin's really running. That was when it was around 64, although you can see then after a bit I had caught a screenshot here. And so it was kind of glitching to a zero balance. And then among other things, it was kind of buy button removal 2.0. Perhaps not as bad as with Robinhood and AMC and GME back in January 2021, but still interesting that both buy and sell buttons were gone. People were seeing zero balances. It was taking a while. I was kind of trying to test and see if I could get to placing a little buy, just throw a few bucks in there. And that took quite a while. And then you saw perhaps that also there was a pretty radical and harsh dip around that time too. And so I want to just talk through a little bit of some things that I believe are going on. And, I've said before, when something happens that you kind of predicted, then that is a time to sort of confirm what's going on and not to freak out. So it was interesting. It wasn't freaking me out. It was making me kind of shocked at how much things were getting confirmed and how fast. So before we're done today, I'll kind of point you to a few videos if you want to understand why I'm saying some of this was predicted. I did not predict Coinbase going down, to be really clear. That's not what I'm saying. But I did predict a lot of chaos and a lot of wild things happening as Bitcoin starts to really kind of get out of control of some of the institutions. First, before I go there, reminder, this was, I think, June of 2023 here. I'm showing you Coinbase has been kind of under the hot lamp or on the hot seat with the SEC. So there is still more to come out of that story. If you followed me on either Twitter or YouTube for a while, then you know I've been talking tokens since long before that Brett Harrison video. I think the first big article I published on Reddit about it was in the fall of 2021 when tokens were pushed on us. Speaking of which, let's talk through a little bit, and I'll start to try to connect some dots here on things that I believe I may have seen today. So the picture on the left is from the fall of 2021. That was the same time, if you were in AMC, then you know that cohorts came and pushed tokens on the AMC community. You know that that was about the time. You can go find a Reddit article I published all about digital assets and AMC, highlighting everything that was going on with FTX, Binance, Bittrex, CM Equity, AG, all those guys had, if you don't know, if you're new here, the AMC tokens were created the same night that Vlad and Kenny were burning the midnight oil and the day before the buy button removal. So the AMC tokens dates all the way back to the buy button removal, happens at the same time. Then you get this notorious short seller in the summer and fall of 2021, basically demanding that AMC tokenize our stock. And of course, as a community, I had done DD, a lot of other people started to see it. We said, no thanks. But what I want to point you to, look at that price. I want you to notice the price of Bitcoin in November of 2021. And I will tell you, I've told people privately, and now I'll just say to you publicly, at that time, I was certain we were going to run again. We had run in January, we had run in June. I believed we were going to run in November. In hindsight, it didn't happen. But at that time, I remember me and some other DD apes and some friends really feeling like something odd had shifted. Something was really different. And now I'm looking back in hindsight and saying, wait a sec, At that time, when tokens were being pushed hard on us, and remember, it's a year from that. It's the anniversary from that when pretty much when FTX goes down. So a lot kind of happens there too. November 2021. Notice that the price of Bitcoin is just over 64K. Think about when Coinbase went down today, and when all hell broke loose. And I'm kind of circling the high of the day here on the right. So you have 64K in November 2021. Since that point, Bitcoin and the entire market had effectively crashed. And AMC has been, as far as the stock, I'm not talking the business, the stock has been in a tailspin since then. The business has been fantastic. We'll get to that a little bit too. Today, at that exact same price, basically, Coinbase goes down. Nobody can buy or sell, at least there. I heard there was another app. I'm forgetting the app. Someone hit me up on Twitter and said, hey, my app is down too. So, if you're out there, I know there were other apps. I don't know. Perhaps you can reply in comments if you saw other apps down for the purchase of Bitcoin in particular. So what I want to just, and I guess I have a typo on here, Tale of Two Cities, but what I want to just highlight there is an idea. I'm going to plant an idea, actually. How about that? And this is breadcrumbs that I've been talking about. If you think about smart contracts and you think about some of the connections between all the players and when the tokens started to be created and what happened in both January and June of 2021, and what I'm saying that I really, really at that time had done DD and believed we were going to run again in November. And then here you see from 64K on, something shifted in both Bitcoin and the markets back in November 2021. And today, I'll call it a circuit breaker. Like it fried the system when we hit 64 today. And boom, hard crash, Coinbase going down, a lot going on. So I would just say if you're a Bitcoiner, you're probably not too many of you are. This has been an AMC channel, but maybe you're just discovering me. Watch 64K, watch 65K real hard. And by the way, I will share a little bit of actually, here you go. So I have put some of my videos into a playlist. If some of you have been kind of saying, Retail, I want you to explain to me this thesis. So if you've been around me a minute, you know that I've got a thesis that I'm working on. It's not only my own. There are a couple others who believe this, that, and I've been saying this since kind of last fall, that as Bitcoin is going to run, we've kind of seen that coming. I've talked a little bit about that. Some of those videos are in here. I've made this playlist. As Bitcoin's going to run, that is going to be tied to cleaning up all of the tokens for AMC. That this is in some ways, I don't know, the chicken's coming home to roost kind of a thing. Or all bills must settle, or, for years you've seen me talk about sunk cost, or the bill comes due, all of that. Okay, so the thesis today felt real based on the way things went and the way that a flurry of activity happened out of that. And you could see, let's say, some voices for what I might call the cabal, or some people maybe call it the abyss. We're not very happy today. And you can see too, by the way, who gets real quiet when Bitcoin's doing real well, and who celebrates that. It's just interesting to watch. Things you might start to pay attention to that give you a little more detail behind the curtains. So check out that playlist. It says 4 on this page. That's because since then I added one. So there's like 5 videos in there that all kind of talk through this thesis. Some of them give you the history of the tokens. And those are not, conspiracy theories or sort of conjecture. I show you literally just a history lesson on what was created, who was involved, when did it happen. There's a whole timeline I've presented in the past. And like I said, you can go back to 2021, and I've got a whole Reddit article about that. So tokens is not something new to some of us. It's stuff some of us knew about for a long time. Many of you are thankfully learning about those and becoming more aware. And so I think the more awareness there is, the better. Put some eyes and some spotlights on that. I've been trying to yell about that for a couple of years now. I guess almost 3 years. But so check out that playlist if you want to understand why I'm connecting Bitcoin and AMC, why I'm talking about the tokens, why I think 64, and why I'm tying, November of 2021 and that 64K to the exact moment pretty much that everything kind of crashed a little bit today. And then some topics you want to learn. So if you're either new to Bitcoin or you're new to AMC, like all of these, this list is good to know. So I talked about that in one of the videos in that playlist. You want to, or just go kind of research that on the internet yourself. You want to understand that so you can kind of know a little bit more about the future of Bitcoin. You want to understand something called smart contracts. So that has to do with how I believe they offset the risk of AMC and kind of delayed us and stalled us. But notice I'm saying delayed and stalled. I do not believe that they won. How many times have I said we will win? I do not believe they won. I believe they kicked the can. And the problem is those smart assets know about what they did. Smart contracts, excuse me. Next line, wrapped assets, that's connected to the smart contracts. So if they have effectively hidden FTDs, hidden shorts, and ultimately buried them in tokens, I do not think those tokens have disappeared into the ether. I think there are blockchains and smart contracts that know about those. And I've talked about that in some of the videos. And that'll just continue to become more and more clear, especially now that I'm getting more and more confident in this thesis as I'm watching it unfold. You want to learn about AMC's history. And so I mentioned one of those videos in that playlist has the history of FTX, Binance, Bittrex, CM Equity AG, some you want to think about Archegos, Credit Suisse, UBS, and some others. There are a lot of players and a lot of history with what has happened with us, and I think it's all sort of tying together in some of the things we're seeing. Just research yourself too in terms of supply and demand for Bitcoin. How many coins are there? What that connects back to halving a little bit. What's going on with the ETFs? And what does that really mean? And by the way, I started to spell out there's even whole countries starting to sort of position themselves around Bitcoin. And then I saw some people talking about that on Twitter today too. So just nice to be a little bit ahead of the curve and see people start to talk about that. Again, starts to confirm some things. And then you want to learn about a concept called proof of work. I know if you're a Bitcoiner, if you're any kind of a crypto bro or sis, you've been on that for years, and so you're ahead of me on that. But something that people really want to understand, I've talked about, perhaps Bitcoin being a currency with a conscience. That's connected. I have talked about basically blockchains leaving a trace like an isotope. So that's kind of connected. So that's a concept you want to learn about, proof of work. And it's a real problem if you have sort of a fraudulent proof of work, which is why I believe Sam and CZ are headed to jail or already in jail. Okay, switching topics completely. Also today, obviously, was AMC earnings. So a little bit of just a check on how did we do, and a little bit of a shoulder pat to myself. Nailed it on the forecast, which the reason I share that is not even really so much as of a pat on my shoulder, as to say, again, when something happens as you expected it, that is not any kind of disappointment. That is, okay, you could tell what was going on, and that ought to, I think, give us some calm and some confidence, especially as I'm personally looking forward towards the end of the year and into 2025. And now, since I've been saying that as well, you are hearing that confirmed. The IMAX CEO, I think, kind of said it last night. You heard Adam talking about it today. Pretty clear that good things are coming. And that is why I also celebrate his work on setting us up with enough cash to survive sort of this, what I've called strike blip. But all right, so let's look. On the overall earnings, I missed by 50 million on my forecast. It's basically all explainable by goodwill impairment. I'll do a deeper dive soon enough and really look at kind of all the line items of where was I sort of plus and minus. But I missed goodwill impairment by about 56 million, which pretty much explains my miss on the earnings forecast. You can kind of see those are close to matching. And no big deal, that is not a cash item. That's not a cash expense. It doesn't take any cash out of the company. In fact, you could have seen, if you were on the earnings call, basically flat, like almost zero cash burn from operations. That I don't want to mislead. That doesn't mean there wasn't other cash out the door. That is a specific number, cash burn from operations, and pretty much zero. So good to see. I believe overall it was probably more like 78 million, I want to say, cash burned. But we had 884 million. So what is that? Like 3-4 years, like almost 4 years of cash. And meanwhile, I've told you profits are coming a lot faster than that. So that is why I've been extremely bullish, and why I ignore the trolls who try to come at me and pretend that I can't read a balance sheet and an income statement, because I've been right every time. Speaking of being right, I mean, here's more proof. Look at revenue. I was almost 99% accurate. I said we would be 15 million better than we were. So, I mean, that is like a rounding error at this level of business. So nailed that. Expenses, Still, I'd call that nailing it. So I'm what, 97.2% accurate. Missed it by 27 million to the wrong side. So in other words, expenses were a little higher than I had. But if you took out impairment, I just mentioned a minute ago that I was off by 56 million on impairment. Then that actually means on everything else, they beat my estimates. In other words, expenses were lower on everything else than I forecasted. So great quarter by AMC, all things considered, especially since we had the strike impact in Q4. I told you in the last video, Dune had moved out, Ghostbusters had moved out, Craven had moved out. There was a lot that had moved out of Q4 that should have been in it because of the strike. But Adam and team brought in the expansion of popcorn. They brought in candy. They brought in Taylor and Beyonce, and basically saved the quarter. So great job by them. We're going to have a little bit more speed bumps. I've been very honest about that. Go see other videos I have about forecasts. Q1 is going to be kind of the toughest one, and you're living that. You're seeing that. I'm sure if you're tracking box office results, you know that already. And Adam talked about it in the earnings call. But the great news is, from here on out, as Dune kind of comes, as various other movies, I'm excited about. I won't even start listing them. There's a lot. And I've got like a longer term forecast video I keep referencing from back in November, where I kind of go through some of the movies in 2024 and how exciting that is. So the rest of the year, things start to get better, start looking up. And we had to get through this. And that is why the team built up cash. And so you should be looking at a management team who saw a problem coming, found a solution to it, and have made sure that you don't lose your shares to the bank. Because if you need to understand, if we ever were to go through bankruptcy, you lose your shares effectively to the bank. Shareholders usually pretty much get nothing out of a bankruptcy. It's not good. So kudos to the team for not allowing their shareholders to take a bath. All right. So, and then don't miss, in the earnings call today, there was something that kind of slipped in that caught my attention, and I know at least caught another friend's attention because we were kind of talking about it. Adam, referenced the FTDs, referenced discussion on things like synthetics. By the way, the tokens are not synthetics. So when he says, kind of maybe, hey, I'm not sure about synthetics, he has never said anything about the tokens. And I think, silence is golden. And so understand, I believe he's fully aware. He had told Cohodes to stand down back in the day, literally just told him, knock it off, get away from me. So he understands tokens, no thanks. But here's what I want you to catch, that I don't want you to miss from today. I think it's bigger than what it was in the moment. He kind of had this almost throwaway line like, hey, reminder, we've been in touch with the New York Stock Exchange. We've been in touch with FINRA about all of the, let's say, peculiarities, the oddities about our stock trading. But today, now I do not think I remember him saying this in Q3. I think in Q3 he said like the NYSE and FINRA. Today he said, and other regulatory bodies. Now understand, when you saw Binance go down, you saw the Treasury, you saw the CFTC, you saw the Fed. When you saw Sam in trouble, you saw the SEC. When you start involving, let's say, the DOJ, the CFTC, the SEC, I would not want to be on the wrong side of those discussions. So good luck to the shorts and to the people involved with these tokens. I don't know how many more circuit breakers you have left before things start to really break down for you. All right, so coming up, other things I'll be discussing. So I said the emails. I had tweeted about emails the other day, and some people are like, what are you talking about? I'm just talking about the Satoshi emails that got released a little while back. I've gone through and read all, like 120 pages or something. I learned some really interesting stuff in there. Loved it. I felt like I was getting this private window into kind of Satoshi's mind and to Marty. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, because two T's, and I think it's a Finnish name. Again, if you're a Bitcoin person, you're like, bro, we've known about some of this stuff forever. But I learned a lot. I thought it was really illuminating. And boy, it's got me just at a much deeper level of understanding, and I'll start to explain where I'm at on that. I will, of course, be talking more about AMC's future. Today, I just wanted a quick revisit of kind of the earnings and where we were. Mostly, I'm just really pleased with the team. You can see I always live tweet the earnings, so if you want to go read 50 tweets of mine, I'm just laughing because I don't know who wants to, but I don't know, maybe you missed the earnings call and you want to just see a recap of that. So it's kind of a live stream tweet version of that. You could go see that. But I'll talk about AMC's future soon. Very bright. I'll continue to sort of talk about this thesis on Bitcoin, the tokens, AMC, what I keep calling the great unwinding. Um, and then lastly, I guess I sort of alluded to this already, but Adam talked about this. I've talked about it in several videos. Adam talked about it today in the call. So just again, it's nice to hear that confirmation that, okay, the way I'm looking at this, I believe that's the way he's looking at it. They have gathered the cash to survive the strike blip. Things are going to turn up from here on. Like we start to get a little better as we go and consistently better. And then at the end of this year, I forecasted profits again in Q4. I'll have to revisit and make sure I still believe that, but that's been my forecast for a while. And then I forecasted honestly kind of mega profits in 2025. And you've now heard Adam and the CEO of IMAX both say 2025 is kind of a banner year. Adam said something like gangbusters. The IMAX CEO said a dream year. It's looking really, really good. And you heard, by the way, something today. If you were to go, I have another playlist that's kind of fundamentals videos. If you were to go all the way back to, I think, September of 2022, it's that long ago, where I started to lay out the case that I could see in the financials. So speaking of which, Shorty, when you try to say that you think I can't read an income statement and a balance sheet, you can find my receipts, September 2022, where I said AMC does not need the box office back to pre-pandemic levels to have greater profitability than pre-pandemic. Now, we proved that in Q3. We had like half the movies of 2019's Q3, and yet we had more profits. Amazing, amazing results by the team. That, by the way, points to a fantastic management team to be able to deliver higher profits on less business. They have lowered their expenses. They have and I have those videos from, like I said, fall of 2022, if you really want to go through. Some of those are pretty long. I was new to this, not new to AMC. I've been in since 2021, but I was new to kind of making some of these videos. But anyway, deep, deep dive on the fundamentals. And you heard Adam say it today. We don't need pre-pandemic levels of movies, though I think we'll get there. I think 2025 and 2026, you're going to start to see really great box office results. So the reason that's so crazy bullish and why I'm so hyped is if you think about from any kind of normal metric, a price to sales ratio, a price to earnings ratio, on a company that is going to be wildly profitable because even less movies than pre-pandemic would get them to profits. Now, what do you think happens when they really get, back to sort of pre-pandemic levels of movies? While they've added distribution and popcorn and candy and maybe beer and wine and who knows what else, and all these concerts and everything, you get into something kind of called sort of gross to net leverage, where it's going to start to be that incremental revenue is because it's a high fixed cost business model. And so it's a model where when you add revenue, you're not adding expenses for some items. Like your rent is your rent, whether you have one movie or 1,000 movies. That's just your rent. So that's a fixed cost. So as they add revenues, and again, I've got all the details if you want to really learn how to kind of dissect a business model. We're going to make a lot of profits is the TLDR on that. All right. So, and then last thing as always, because of how confident I am in our results that are to come, it doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet. Doesn't mean things are easy yet. But boy, in terms of a forward outlook and sort of envisioning and mentally placing ourselves in the future, we will win. Let's go.